Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Volkswagen Golf VII car. Volkswagen Golf, what engines were installed? The range of engines in the 7th generation Golf is very rich, although not all were used in the same period. If we were to divide the versions of the car only by fuel type and power, a total of 33 Golf variants were created. But let's start from the beginning. The list of petrol engines includes only TSI units with a capacity of 1 to 2 liters. Initially, the smallest variant was the 1.2 TSI. This engine was withdrawn from the offer in 2017 and replaced by a smaller 1.0 TSI unit offered from 2015. Intermediate drives are 1.4 TSI until 2018 and 1.5 TSI from 2017. The most powerful standard unit was the 1.8 TSI offered in 2014 to 2018. Above that, there were only sports drives based on the 2.0 TSI engine generating power from 220 to 310 HP. The GTI version was offered in 5 versions with a 310 HP unit at the top for the limited Club Sport S version. On the other hand, the top R version was offered in 2 power versions of 300 and 310 HP. It is also worth mentioning the absolutely unique R360S version with a 360 HP unit. Only 220 units were produced for the Swiss market. In my opinion, the most interesting sports version of the Golf is the briefly offered but unlimited TCR version, referring to the world of racing, and a series of victories in the TCR Championship. But that's just my personal opinion. The diesel range consists of 2 engines available in many power variants. The base one is the 1.6 TDI with power from 90 to 115 HP. The larger 2.0 TDI developed power of 150 or 184 HP. Interestingly, the most powerful variant was offered only for the Golf GTD, the diesel equivalent of the GTI, and the Alltrack, an off-road station wagon with 4-wheel drive. And here is another interesting fact. Because the Alltrack was available with a manual or automatic gearbox, but in other diesel versions, 4-wheel drive was combined only with a manual gearbox. The Alltrack and GTD used DSG gearboxes, also used in the R variant. The electrified Golfs are the GTE, with a plug-in hybrid drive based on a 1.4 TSI engine and the fully electric e-Golf. The first develops a system power of 204 HP and provides performance comparable to the weakest Golf GTI. Besides, it was treated more as a sports version than an ecological one. On the other hand, the electric has a drive generating only 115 or 136 hydrogen phosphide, depending on the year. A fully charged battery with a capacity of 24.2 kilowatt-hours gives a chance to travel about 150 to 160 kilometers. While in the case of the Golf V&V, choosing the drive unit was not easy and carried some risk. In the Golf VII, the only risky unit is the 1.8 TSI petrol engine, which can use oil. All the others are improved and perform well. The smaller petrol engines belong to the EA211 family, and there are no major reservations about them. Even the 1.4 TSI with cylinder deactivation while driving has good reviews for now. The exception is the latest 1.5 TSI, which is a design related to the 1.4 TSI, but much more complicated and strained in terms of the combustion process and creating the mixture. Additionally, it has a turbocharger with variable geometry and a GPF filter. Sometimes the engine leaks and also makes noise and vibrates. But for now, these are isolated cases, but you can't say that it's a bad engine. Despite everything, I would definitely recommend an older car with 1.4 TSI, and if you care about fuel consumption, a diesel. What surprised many users, however, is that the 140 or 150 HP version of the 1.4 TSI petrol gives very good performance, and with a little will, burns only slightly more than the 2.0 TDI diesel. Acceleration to 100 km per hour takes just over 8 seconds. A slightly simpler and still dynamic version is the 125 HP, which seems to be the optimal choice. It is also worth choosing the smaller 1.2 TSI engine if you do not care about performance. Even the basic 85 HP unit gives decent acceleration values. You should not worry about the 5-speed gearbox because it is stepped differently than the 6-speed in more powerful engines. There is no problem with excessive noise at higher speeds. More powerful versions of the 1.2 TSI were equipped with a 6-speed gearbox. A rather controversial choice is the 1.0 TSI engine with 3 cylinders and power comparable to the 1.2 TSI, but with greater maximum torque. It is easy to imagine that it is more heavily loaded, and the additional load is the GPF filter. At the moment, few people complain about this design, but I would recommend the more proven 1.2 TSI. As for diesel engines, the choice is simple, as both the smaller 1.6 TDI and the larger 2.0 TDI are highly refined, durable, and cheap to service designs compared to competing units from other manufacturers. The choice is a matter of deciding whether we want a more economical but slower car or the other way around. For saving, Volkswagen has prepared special versions of the Golf marked as Blue Motion. More on that in a moment. Of particular note is the technically advanced 2.0 TDI variant with 184 hydrogen phosphide, which was available in the GTD and Alltrack versions. It is a very dynamic but also economical drive unit, accelerating the car to 100 km per hour in less than 8 seconds. Customers had a choice of manual and automatic DSG gearboxes, the latter in 6 and 7-speed variants. Manual gearboxes were 6-speed as a rule, while the weakest petrol engines and the 1.6 TDI received 5-speed ones. Automatic DSG gearboxes are not much less durable than manual ones, but their potential repairs or even regenerations are not as expensive as those of the competition. Mechanics know them very well, so there is no need to be afraid. 6-speed gearboxes are considered more durable. Automatics were combined with most engines. Among the petrol engines, only the weakest 10 TSI 85 hydrogen phosphide could not work with a manual gearbox. Among the diesels, the situation was similar. Only the 90 HP 1.6 TDI was not combined with an automatic. Four-wheel drive was an option in many Golf versions, but only with the diesel engine, and the sporty R4 Motion was not available only in the 1.6 TDI with 90 and 115 horsepower. In the petrol engines, it was almost completely absent, with the exception of the 1.8 TSI Alltrack version. It is difficult to say unequivocally about electrified drives. In general, the e-Golf version is considered good, although neglecting to change the oil in the gearbox usually ends in its failure at a relatively low mileage. The hybrid version is less common, based on a very good engine. Potentially, it could be a good choice. In my opinion, the optimal engine in the Golf 7 is the 1.4 TSI petrol, which perfectly combines operating costs about 6 to 7 L/100 kilometers with dynamics. In fact, regardless of power, although I would personally choose the 125 horsepower version. In turn, the most economical Golf in the long run is the 1.2 TSI engine configuration with a manual gearbox. The lowest repair costs, very low fuel consumption, around 6 L/100 kilometers, plus no dual-mass flywheel. This is the only such variant. With DSG, a dual-mass flywheel is already available. It is also available in the 1.0 TSI engine. If you decide on a diesel, you should focus more on the car in general than on a specific variant. 1.6 and 2.0 TDI are related designs. My favorites are the super economical 1.6 TDI with 90 or 110 HP and the almost sporty 2.0 TDI with 184 HP. Everything in between is a compromise. The great-looking and driving GTD version is particularly noteworthy, although I consider the Golf Alltrack to be one of the best off-road estate cars in history. With this unit, you can expect fuel consumption of around 6.5 L/100 kilometers when driving dynamically. Gearboxes, manual and automatic, have similar durability. Here's an interesting fact, because the manuals used in the Golf 7 are not particularly successful, but there are no such major problems with them as with the M32 Opel gearbox. It is worth remembering to change the oil regularly in both types. However, manual gearboxes are cheaper to operate. Typical faults: the opinions about the car are very good, and there are not many reasons to complain. Generally, faults are individual cases, but there are also typical model ailments. One of the problems is water leaking into the interior. It gets in through the door near the speaker. Additionally, users complain about poor paintwork and decorative elements that do not withstand the test of time. Fogging of the front headlights is almost the norm in many copies. The air conditioning is quite unreliable, but this also applies to individual cases. In a certain batch of cars, the steering knuckles were not durable. The most common problems are with the 1.5 TSI engine. As I mentioned above, it vibrates, which results in jerks when starting off. In this case, this does not apply to all engines, so the opinions of users are divided. Nevertheless, this is the design that is complained about most often. In 1.2 and 1.4 TSI engines, the entire timing drive should be replaced with all cooperating elements because failures do occur. Additionally, the 1.4 TSI engine tends to burn oil during very dynamic driving, so it is worth checking its condition. Another problem is the unstable electrics supporting the 1.6 TDI unit, which sometimes stalls or cannot be started. The coolant pump is damaged quite often. A similar situation occurs in the 1.8 TSI, which in turn suffers from an excessive appetite for oil. A fairly typical problem in all diesels is a clogged DPF filter. Additionally, there are known cases of damage to the head gasket in the 2.0 TDI. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know any problems with this car that I didn't mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.